Picture this: dragons, political intrigue, and a battle for the throne. Welcome to the world of House of the Dragon. Hi, I'm Leah, and I'm feeling really excited to dive into today's topic.
I'm Garrett, and I can't wait to explore this epic tale with you all. Welcome to Laid Back Learning with Leah and Garrett. Today, we're delving into the captivating world of House of the Dragon, the HBO series that continues the legacy of Game of Thrones. Okay, so here's where I start. My first time watching House of the Dragon, I queued it up the night it dropped. The opening scenes just hit different. The halls of King's Landing felt lived in, the candlelight looked like actually warm, and the dragons had real weight in the frame. I remember thinking, wow, this is Westeros but earlier, and somehow grander. The whole thing rolled out in 4K with Dolby Vision HDR and Dolby Atmos. In simple terms, deeper color and contrast, plus surround sound that kind of wraps around you, so every wing beat and whispered council plot landed. The scale grabbed me, but it was the small stuff that hooked me too. The family glances at court, the way titles and loyalties felt like a chessboard being set. I was, not gonna lie, all in from minute one.
Let's set the scene. House of the Dragon is an American fantasy drama TV series and a prequel, meaning it's set earlier, roughly 2 centuries before Game of Thrones, and about 172 years before Daenerys Targaryen's birth. It zeroes in on House Targaryen, the dragon-riding dynasty, and the political currents that set up the civil war known as the Dance of the Dragons. If Game of Thrones often felt like a brutal tug of war, this feels like a chess game of power, family, and dragons. Every move has a consequence, and the board is on fire, sometimes literally.
Right, and it's based on parts of George R.R. Martin's Fire and Blood, which isn't a traditional novel. It reads like an in-universe history book compiled by a court scholar. Because that source uses conflicting accounts with unreliable narrators you can't fully trust, the show has to pick a consistent version and lay it out in a clear timeline. That's why you see time jumps in season 1 with younger and older actors. It stitches a messy chronicle into a single, flowing narrative.
Here's something to get us started on how it came to be. In 2019, HBO gave House of the Dragon a straight-to-series order. They skipped the usual pilot test and committed to a full season. Initial creators included George R.R. Martin, the author behind the world, and Ryan Condal, the writer-producer who would shape the TV arc. Miguel Sapochnik, known for big Game of Thrones battles, joined as co-showrunner at first.
Writing kicked off in early 2020, and casting followed fast. Paddy Considine was tapped as King Viserys first, a decent, peace-seeking ruler. Olivia Cooke came in as Alicent Hightower, a queen navigating power and duty, Matt Smith as Daemon Targaryen, the rogue prince who rides Caraxes, and Emma Darcy as Rhaenyra Targaryen, Viserys' chosen heir, who rides Syrax. These 4 kind of anchor the storm around succession.
Production-wise, the team went big. Season 1's budget hovered near $200 million, roughly $20 million per episode, and marketing topped $100 million. Filming happened primarily in the UK, with Spain's Cáceres and Trujillo standing in for King's Landing, and Portugal's Castle of Monsanto for rugged fortress vibes. Technically, they used large-format ARRI cameras for that cinematic look, and VFX veterans like Pixamondo handled dragons. There was also a virtual production stage at Leavesden at one point. Think giant LED walls that display digital scenery in real time, though that setup was later reported to be shutting down.
The adaptation pulls not just from Fire and Blood, but also the novellas The Princess and the Queen and The Rogue Prince. Those were earlier tellings of this era, later folded into the history book. And I love that they went deep on language authenticity. David J. Peterson returned to expand High Valyrian, basically the ancient Targaryen language, so you get full scenes spoken in it. It makes private family moments feel, coded and intimate.
On the cast front, Emma Darcy's Rhaenyra is the emotional anchor. They balance regal control with simmering defiance. Matt Smith's Daemon brings that unpredictable edge. You never quite know if he'll be your ally or your problem. Paddy Considine's Viserys is disarmingly kind, which is heartbreaking as his choices seed conflict. And Olivia Cooke's Alicent, once Rhaenyra's friend, becomes a force of law and tradition. Around them are figures like Rhys Ifans as Otto Hightower, the calculating hand of the king, and Steve Toussaint as Corlys Velaryon, the legendary seafarer. Their moves reshape the board.
The series premiered in August 2022 and immediately set records. About 10 million US viewers day one across HBO and streaming. It got renewed for season 2 within the first week. Soon after, Miguel Sapochnik stepped back from co-show running, but stayed on as executive producer, with Game of Thrones veteran Alan Taylor stepping in as executive producer and director, while Ryan Condal led the show-running duties.
Now for the heart of the story. The conflict builds around the Iron Throne. Rhaenyra's faction is nicknamed the Blacks. Aegon II's faction, the son of Viserys by Alicent, is the Greens. Those colors come from court fashion symbolism, which is neat. Under male preference succession, meaning sons tend to be favored over daughters, claims clash. Councils argue law while families fracture. And as lines harden, dragons stop being a symbol and become weapons. Their number and writers shift the balance, town by town.
Critically, the show made waves. It won the Golden Globe for Best Television Series Drama, picked up 9 Primetime Emmy nominations, including Outstanding Drama Series, and scored multiple BAFTA Television Craft Awards for its technical artistry. Season 1 reviewed strongly, Season 2 landed generally favorable marks, and Season 3 kept that up. That's pretty cool, right?
And it's not just awards, it's infrastructure. House of the Dragon launched as HBO's first new series in 4K with Dolby Vision HDR and Dolby Atmos. In basic terms, it looks sharper with more detail in shadows and highlights, and the sound feels three-dimensional. The budgets align with that choice. Also, the show distinguished the Velaryons, Corlys's house, as black nobility on screen. That increases representation and practically helps casual viewers separate Valyrian-descended families at a glance.
Viewership patterns back the phenomenon vibe. After the premiere, US viewership climbed to nearly 25 million within a week across platforms. Season 2 opened in June 2024 with 8 episodes and hit about 1.2 billion streaming minutes in its biggest week. By Season 3's June 2026 premiere, it drew about 21.5 million viewers worldwide across linear and streaming. That's sustained interest, not just a spike.
Where does it stand now? Seasons 2 and 3 both ran 8 episodes, leaning into tighter arcs. Season 3 arrived in June 2026 with favorable reviews. The plan is a 4th and final season, expected in 2028, to close the Dance of the Dragon story. Ryan Condal has said the series is finite by design, which helps the show keep momentum without overextending.
And about continuity. Ramin Djawadi kept the original Game of Thrones theme in the credits. Why keep the same theme, you might ask? 2 reasons jump out to me. 1. Branding. A familiar melody signals you're in the same universe instantly. 2. Musical storytelling. Old motifs meet new character themes to bridge eras. It's like hearing an old anthem remixed for a new generation.
That reminds me, production pressed on during the 2023 SAG-AFTRA strike. Why could they continue when others paused? It mainly comes down to jurisdiction. Most of the cast worked under the UK's Equity Union rather than SAG-AFTRA, so filming could proceed legally in the UK while US projects halted. Different labor rules, different outcomes. Let's dig deeper into a thorny question. How closely should the show stick to Fire and Blood? George R.R. Martin has voiced concern at points about changes to the source, and there have been publicized tensions. On the other side, Ryan Condal has argued that because the book is a historian's account with conflicting versions, the adaptation has to choose one path for clarity. Real talk. It's a classic fidelity versus interpretation debate.
I can see the merits of creative license. TV is a different medium with time limits, budget constraints, and the need to keep a huge ensemble legible. For instance, some characters from the book, like Maelor Targaryen, a royal child who appears in the Chronicle, were excluded in Season 2. Streamlining can prevent narrative clutter, and because the source is an unreliable chronicle, committing to a single on-screen version feels fair to me. It's picking one historian's footnote and saying, okay, that's our spine.
I hear that, but I lean toward keeping key book beats intact. Even small omissions sometimes change the emotional math. Families and loyalties hinge on who lives and dies, who is named, who is lost. Since the book's ambiguity is part of the intrigue, I kind of love when a show preserves that uncertainty or nods to multiple possibilities. Why not preserve a few more puzzle pieces when they're central to the stakes?
Totally fair. Maybe the sweet spot is this: be clear enough for newcomers, but honor the spirit of the chronicle by letting doubt and debate breathe. The show actually does that sometimes through perspective shots and conflicting testimony, even as it chooses a clean timeline. I'm down for that balance.
Switching gears a bit to the wider pop culture wave. House of the Dragon launched alongside Amazon's The Lord of the Rings, The Rings of Power, and media framed it like the biggest battle in TV history. Rings reportedly spent far more overall, skewed older in its streaming audience, and released all via streaming. House of the Dragon played a dual game with linear and streaming, growing week over week. Two fantasy giants, two strategies, one noisy moment in the so-called streaming wars.
Counterfactual time. What if Miguel Sapochnik had stayed on as co-showrunner beyond Season 1? He's known for kinetic, large-scale battle storytelling. Tone-wise, maybe we'd have seen even more late Game of Thrones visual intensity woven into the quieter court episodes. Stylistically, that could tilt certain set pieces bigger, earlier. And maybe, the dynamics with George R. R. Martin would have evolved differently, whether in alignment or in friction. Hard to say. Creative chemistry is a delicate thing.
Here's where it gets really interesting. If Sapochnik had stayed, the runway for battle-forward episodes might have expanded, but there's a trade-off. Tighter 8-episode seasons and dragon-heavy VFX need time and budget per hour. I wonder if keeping him as co-pilot would have nudged priorities towards spectacle over council maneuvering, or if the partnership with Ryan Condal would have simply blended strengths, more battles, same careful politics. Either way, the show's commitment to a 4-season arc likely keeps the endpoint the same. All right, that ties it up nicely. Stay curious, keep your dragons fed, metaphorically, and we'll catch the next chapter soon.
So, there we have it. Thanks for hanging out with us on Laid Back Learning with Leah and Garrett. Until next time, let's keep it moving and keep learning.